On this episode of Inside Influence, we're giving you the top 5 industry benchmarks to be aware of when running an influencer marketing campaign. Hello everybody, my name is Tom Yanni and welcome to Inside Influence, the show where we give you a look into the inner workings of the influencer marketing industry. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about 5 benchmarks that you should be aware of before executing a campaign. Let's get to it. So the first benchmark to consider is, what is the benchmark to actually be considered an influencer? And the truth is, it's variable, it's different from category to category, and you're not going to find one defined answer from everybody involved in the industry. But here's one thing to use as a benchmark. 10,000 followers is the point on Instagram where you can swipe up and guide people through to a third-party web page. And that's really, really important for a lot of campaigns, because on Instagram, you can't link to a third-party site from a post. You can really do that from Instagram stories. So 10,000 allows you to integrate that into the campaign and allows you to bring a lot more value to that campaign, driving it off-site. So 10,000 is usually the benchmark where people with audiences will start getting opportunities for business engagements. So the next industry benchmark to consider is, what percentage of a creator or an influencer's audience should be relevant to who you are looking to connect with? Let's say you're running a campaign in New York, LA, Miami, and Toronto. What percentage of their followers needs to live in those 4 cities? And what we would say as a benchmark is about 20 to 25% is a good place to be. Anything above is great. But you got to consider there's billions of people in this world, there's billions of people on these social platforms, so you're never going to have 70, 80% of their audience that's fully relevant, or it's rare. But if you can hit 20, 25% or up, you're in a good place. So the third benchmark to consider is, what is a good engagement rate for influencers? Engagement is huge, right? Influencer marketing provides two-way communication with brands and audiences. There's a lot of value there. So what's a good number? What's the benchmark? Well, we would say about 3%. If 3% of their audience is engaging, liking, sharing, commenting, that's a good number. Anything less than 3%, that would be a little bit of a low engagement rate. If you can get 5 and up, that's really, really good. And sometimes you're gonna find, especially with micro-influencers, they have really, really engaged audiences where you might get 15, 20%, and that's when you're really hitting a home run. So the fourth benchmark to consider is, what percentage of a creator and influencer's audience will actually see their post? So let's say an influencer has 100,000 followers. How many people will see it? 50,000, 20,000, 30,000, 10? It's actually around 20 to 25% on average. So if they have 100,000, about 20 to 25,000 or so will see it. Now, as a brand, set that benchmark, and then afterwards you can look at the reach and the impressions of that post and use that 20 to 25% as a benchmark of success. Now, the fifth benchmark is, what percentage of your budget should be used towards social advertising to boost that content further? Now, remember, the fourth benchmark is 20 to 25% of that audience will actually see the content, so we want to make sure that more people see it, that it can expand and be served to a variety of new people. So on average, we use about 20% of every budget towards boosting the content of the influencers, towards highly targeted individuals based on age, interest, location, and whatnot. But we would suggest putting about 20% of every budget towards boosting that content through social advertising. So in summary, what are the top 5 benchmarks that you need to consider when executing an influencer marketing campaign? Well, number 1, we would consider the benchmark of somebody being an influencer at 10,000 followers. Again, that's variable, but we would say about 10,000. Number 2, what percentage of their audience is going to be relevant to your campaign? Let's keep that around 20%. Anything above is great. Now, what is the benchmark for considered good engagement? 3% or higher, again, would be very, very good. What percentage of their audience will actually see the post? About 20 to 25% of their audience should see it. And lastly, what percentage of your budget should be devoted towards social advertising? We would put 20% of any budget towards boosting that content. Thanks again for watching this episode of Inside Influence. Make sure to like and comment. We'll be sure to respond to any of your comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you at the next episode.